Hello, my name is Abraham Klein, and today I would like to read some poetry. Yeah, I've never done a video like this before, but recently I rediscovered a poem that I learned when I was in school, and I remember at the time that I hated the poem, not because of what was in it. I didn't really think about what was in it. What I thought about was, this is a really long poem and I have to memorize it. So therefore, I remember me and my local fellow classmates would dread at the thought of having to learn if. And so that is what I took from this poem when I was back in about, I don't know, 7th grade, I think it might have been. So that's what I took from it, was the fact that it was a really long poem. And I remember having to read it and learn it and recite it. I have to learn the first stanza, and then say that one. Then I have to read the next stanza, and then learn that one, and obviously add them on as I learned them, and that's all I got from it. And sadly, maybe it was because I was, barely a teenager, maybe not even a teenager yet, when I first read this poem, and learned about it. But there is an amazing, amazing message in it that really is timeless. It applies today. I'm sure it applied in that day. And I'm sure no matter how many years left in this world, it will apply then. And that is the poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling. And I don't remember if my teachers ever really took the time to explain the meanings of these poems or the stories that we read. It's amazing because after my time in school, I read these back now, and maybe it was because of my age at the time, maybe it's because of my age now, but they actually are good. As little as I really cared about them or understood them at the time, they're very good. So I've already been babbling for 2 minutes, but I want to get into this poem and sort of talk about what this poem is talking about. And my goodness, it is a really good poem. If, by Rudyard Kipling, and here are the words. And it's all leading to one particular message, but it gives all these ifs, these, if you can do this, what's the word they use in the Bible? I don't remember what it is. But, basically, if this happens, this is the, cause and effect. This is the result. So anyway, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, and make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. So, immediately you see here, it's talking about calmness or keeping a cool head, being level-headed, showing maturity in your life, and not getting flustered about things that happen. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, the old joke is, then it's probably your fault. But no, the truth is, a lot of times things come into life, either that we don't expect or that we dread, and then it happens, and maybe it's collectively for a family, for a church, for a group of friends or a group or a company, whatever it is. And in the midst of all that, despite everyone else possibly, losing their minds over this, you keep your head. You keep unmovable, I guess you could say. Not that you don't have some of those fears, and I'm not against showing your emotions, so to speak, but there is a time when it's important to be strong and show that you're being strong. And so he says, here's one of these possibilities. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blame it on you, there will be a reward. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. So you continue to believe in yourself, trust what you believe is right, even though everybody else around you doubts you. So we're seeing this idea of staying calm in unforeseen situations, trusting yourself when everybody else around you doesn't believe in you, but also keep an open mind, but make allowance for their doubting too. Keep an open mind that maybe you're not right. Maybe, maybe I did something. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this advice is actually good for me. It's actually constructive. Then he says, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, patience basically. If you can, don't be tired by waiting. In other words, don't let it wear you out. Don't let it control you. That I want this now. I want this now. I want this now, and you end up becoming sick of it and tired. And of course, what happens when we're tired? We take the path of least resistance. We take the path that we just anything to get over this waiting, and often that's where so many of our mistakes come in life. Or being lied about. Don't deal in lies, and this is a very easy one for us to do. Especially when you get to the second part. Well, let's talk about them both. And being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. It's very easy that when lies start being told about us, we want to try to justify ourselves by any means necessary, even if it means lying, unfortunately. A person, you've been caught doing something wrong. You've been caught being wrong or doing something that's wrong, and you just try to lie your way out of it, try to justify what you've done. But being lied about, somebody lies, says something that's not true about you, and it makes you just want to come back and just tell a lie about that person, discredit that person. With you did this, and it's not true. Oh yeah, well let's talk about what you did. And it's a total fabrication, and you end up becoming just as bad as the other side. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. Even though people hate you, you don't have to give way to that hatred. And if it bothers you, and you let it bother you, that's literally them taking, as they say, residence in your own head, that getting rent-free space in your head. And we don't want to go there. We definitely don't want to go there. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. And I guess this is more about humility. And we as people like to look good, and we like to appear to be the wisest and smartest person in the room. But when it causes us pride of, look at me, I'm just an awesome guy. That's not the way we ought to be. We if we do something good, it's not for the purpose of wanting other people to appreciate how good we've done. Or if we do say something that's wise, or knowledgeable or correct, we don't want to simply do it so we can be recognized for that wisdom or for that knowledge. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. And then I guess the great thing about art is that it often has different interpretations, I guess. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. But if you can dream and not make dreams your master, to where they rule you that you can't actually have a life, then that's a problem. But if you can dream and not make dreams your master, well, that's great. So much to the point where, even the dreams that you have may not be what you're fit for. You may love it, but maybe it's not the, I've often heard people talk about, find something you want to do and make it a goal, and don't ever give up no matter what. Even if it turns out you're actually not good at that thing. Well, don't make your dream your master. Don't feel as though you have the pressure that if I don't do this, I won't have the pride of saying I made it all the way. Now, maybe you're getting in the way of what you actually should do, or what you're actually good at. And so instead of making that dream your master, you open up the possibility of you actually live your life and actually try to focus on what is it I can do, what is it I am capable of. And if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, there's a lot of people who have ideas but never execute them. People dream up businesses, inventions, different types of things, and all they have are their thoughts. And so you don't want to get to the place where just thinking about things is all you're thinking about. I'm going to make the thoughts my aim. That's it. Never execute it and just make the thoughts your aim. if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two imposters just the same. And this basically is showing us here that life is not all about the triumph. It's not all about the disaster. The disaster. To think that those are going to last. We'd be foolish to think that life is nothing but disaster. There's a lot of it, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of tragedy in life. There's a lot of unfortunate things that we go through and experience in life. But it's not the end. It doesn't have to be the end. We let it become the end if we're not careful. In fact, that's why I like the book of Ruth, because it shows us how where you are doesn't have to be where you end. Things will continue to change. You may see yourself in a place where life is just so, it's gotten you so down, and you feel like this is life. And I've been in that position many times where I thought, well, this is life now. And sometimes it is. Sometimes there's things that do happen that, things that may happen to you physically or mentally or things like that may be with you the rest of your life. But realize it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to be who you are for the rest of your life. And then triumph. We think that, once we get to triumph, everything, if we get to this point, life will be wonderful. We don't have to worry about it. We can just get to this point. But we know that doesn't last either. That there's going to constantly be triumph and disaster in our lives. And hopefully a lot more triumph than disaster. But either way, that's going to be life. Sorry to be, negative about things. Anyway, and treat those two imposters just the same. Again, so that, they're not, it's never going to stay the same. Life is going to continue to go on. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. Take the words you've spoken. That's what is so, I guess you could say, kind of scary about the fact that we put our words out there. Especially if your name ever rises to prominence, like a president or a politician or a celebrity or something like that, then you can get your words twisted and they'll take things out of context and say that, well, I guess I'm kind of doing this. I guess I'm kind of interpreting what Rudyard Kipling said. So I guess I'm giving my interpretation of what. Anyway, I'm not trying to twist his words or make him make lies. But again, that's the most that's the crazy thing about the things that we say is that people can turn them into lies. People can turn them into something else. You see this in politics. You see this in the lives of people who, they said this in 1827, and that's the quote they go to prove that guy's either a good or a bad guy. And then others go to his later quotes to prove that he's either a good or a bad guy. And don't take into account that people change, that people repent. There's such a thing as a repentance, and far too many in society do not seem to believe that. And that's why sometimes when you read a guy at one time in his life and another time in his life, they seem to contradict one another. Well, maybe because they changed. And, the idea that no matter everything that we say is going to be accounted for, we know as Christians before God one day. But our words stay with us. Our words stay long after we're gone, for the most part, depending on who finds your words later in life. But sometimes they'll use them, take them out of context to convince people. Make a trap for fools so that they can take something you said, twist it, take it completely out of context, and cause others maybe to hate you, as he talked about earlier in the poem, or to or to follow something wrong based on something you said. But it was twisted and by those knaves to make a trap for fools. Or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. Again, I guess this kind of goes to the dreams, and the idea about that is that watching the things you gave your life to broken. Somebody builds a business. Somebody falls in love, somebody has a home, builds a home or builds something of value in their life, and in an instant it's all just gone. And then have to rebuild. and build them up with those worn out tools. You know, that can be your body, because it's now older and has to now build from the ground up, and something, they're now worn out. Those tools that they had, you have the experience now, but you also are worn out. It's hard to start over once you've been broken down. You get into this pattern, and life changes. That's why it's so scary for especially people as they get older, and they've started life. We like the idea of starting and just continuing a trajectory upward, but sometimes it happens to people very often where they have to start over. And but if you can do that, there's a reward coming. So if you can make one heap of all your earnings and risk it all on one pitch of toss, one turn of pitch and toss, an old game back in the day, and lose and start again at your beginnings, just like he was talking about earlier, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. That's a hard one. Because we like to talk about the things we've lost and how we've failed, and why we fail, and how it's not my fault, it's everybody else's fault of why I failed. And start again and never breathe a word about your loss. That takes some strength, for sure. It takes some strength not to mention things, especially in our social media world. It's hard not to mention either what we've gained or what we've lost. We want the whole world to see what we've done. We want to be these, we want to be celebrated. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, in other words, using your entire existence basically to keep going, even after they've lost that youth and strength that they once had, to keep going. And so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on, keep going. This doesn't end at a particular time in our life. It ends at the end of our life. And so till then, it's just this continuous battle to go on and on and on and on, and try to continue being a virtuous person, a person of truth and honesty and all these different things. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, because it's easy to lose your virtue when you're in crowds, and sometimes you say things and then you fabricate things, you tell stories and blow them way above what they were, and thus losing your virtue. But if you can stay honest, even in a crowd, that's pretty hard. Or walk with kings and not lose the common touch. Again, find yourself at a higher status, but don't lose that. Don't become an elitist. Don't forget where you came from, or forget those that are considered lesser than you, or not as wealthy, or as powerful, or as famous as you. Those who don't have quite the prestige as you have. Don't lose that common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, because it's true. Friends hurt you, and foes will hurt you. Foes and friends will hurt you. Sometimes the ones you love hurt you more than the ones that hate you. Sometimes the friends treat you worse than the foes, and sometimes it's harder to take it from a friend than a foe. But if neither can hurt you, well, there's good things coming. If all men count with you, but none too much. I guess it's sort of talking about, I guess kind of not getting too attached. That line I can't necessarily completely understand, but I think that might be where he's going. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, in other words, making every single second valuable, every second, every minute, every inch you take has meaning to it and purpose, and you're giving your absolute all. If all of those things you've done, if you can do all those things, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and what's more, you'll be a man, my son. And so that is the poem If. An amazing poem written by well-known author Rudyard Kipling, who wrote a lot of great stories and other poetry as well. And I guess this was written to his son and giving him advice. And it's, maybe, here's the thing, he may not have reached it there himself, but he's, if nothing else, encouraging his son to get there, to be a man, to be somebody that can be that good person, I guess you could say, that has those virtues and those values and that personality and that ability to do what it takes to make it in this life. Because the Bible says man is but a few days and full of trouble. But certainly some inspiration there. And if you haven't taken the time to think about that poem before, I hope this has been a nice little refresher for you to get an idea of life and how important it is to do our best, to be patient, to be persistent, all these different things that this poem talks about. So that was my review. A lot of people review movies. I reviewed like a over 100-year-old poem. So anyway, this has been Abraham Klein saying thank you for watching.